Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. The Bard of the Red Hand here, and today we are going to be breaking down Thom's guitar, so stick around. Before we dive on into that, I noticed that over half of the viewership of this channel is not subscribed, so if you would, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. While you're there, click the bell, and don't forget to like the video. I also want to call out that I have a Discord server. I'll include the link down in the description below, so if you ever want to come chat with me about the Wheel of Time, go ahead, click that link, and come on over. We'd love to have you. Alright, with all that out of the way, we can go ahead and start diving into Thom's guitar. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip here, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Donation for the Gleeman.
I've been staring at this thing for a long time, trying to look at the different elements of it and break apart pieces of the design. I want to kind of go into the history of the instrument of the guitar today, look at previous historical examples, and design influences that the team over at Sony and Amazon may have picked up on. Okay, a few things I want to call out about this guitar. Things to note are the size and shape of the instrument. So the body size, it actually looks a little physically smaller than a modern acoustic guitar. Then it's a little bit more squared off where the body meets the neck. The neck seems to be a shorter scale length than what we typically see on modern acoustic guitars and even classical guitars as well. And the headstock looks a little bit different. We're going to get into all of these elements and go over some of the terminologies I just used there. Alright everyone, as I said, we're going to go ahead and cover some of the basic components of the guitar. To do this, I've created this little animation using Thom's guitar. So first and foremost, we're going to see here that we have the headstock, followed by that we have the bridge, the body, the neck and fretboard, and lastly, the aptly named sound hole. Alright, with these basic terms out of the way, let's go ahead and start diving into some of the historical examples of the guitar. First up, we have the Renaissance guitar. This guitar first appeared in the 16th century. It features 4 courses of gut strings, 3 sets of doubled strings and a solo string, an hourglass shape, friction tuning pegs, and movable gut frets. The tuning is the same as the modern ukulele. We also see that this instrument has a flat back and a straight headstock. Our next historical guitar is the Baroque guitar. I'm now going to play you some video clips that include the Baroque guitar. These will include some examples of playing, as well as a couple of explanations of the various features of the guitar. The Baroque guitar first appeared in the 17th century. Like the Renaissance guitar, it features the same shape, gut strings and frets, but it differs in the number of strings and tuning.
Okay, so here we have the beautiful Baroque guitar. And if I hold up a modern guitar, you can see the difference in size. It's a much thinner hourglass shape. It's also quite a bit lighter. Okay, so let's go over the main differences between these two. Modern guitars have what are called machine heads, these gears up here, which make it very easy to fine-tune. Now, Baroque guitars use friction pegs. They're very similar to violin pegs in that they're just wooden pegs that you turn and that are held in with friction. Another main difference is that modern guitars use metal frets, these little pieces of metal here. Baroque guitar, instead of using metal frets, uses gut, and gut is intestine, dried intestines, which usually came from sheep. This is real gut that I have tied around the neck here.
The Baroque guitar has a tuning more similar to the modern acoustic guitar.
So let's talk about the tuning. It has 9 strings total, but we actually call this a 5-course guitar, A course is a pair of strings that we play simultaneously. The modern guitar also has a very simple rectangular bridge, but the Baroque guitar is a bit more elegant. And instead of a simple rectangular bridge, they've turned it into a curlicue mustache.
These video clips come from Brandon Acker's channel. He is a traditional string instrumentalist and a classical guitar player. I'll include a link to his channel down below, so be sure to go check him out. He's got some great content if you're interested in historical stringed instruments. The Baroque guitar remained very popular right up to the 19th century. At the turn of the 18th to the 19th century, the more familiar 6 single-stringed guitar emerged. It features a similar but more exaggerated hourglass shape, friction pegs, metal frets, and a pin bridge. The last 2 items were a response to the invention of metal-wound guitar strings. Gut frets would both ruin and be ruined by metal-wound strings, so they had to be replaced. We also see a significant change to the bridge. On our previous models, the gut strings were tied to the bridge. With the modern guitar, this was no longer viable due to the increased tension that the metal wound strings would exert. So they drilled holes through the soundboard and held the strings in place with pins. This feature is ubiquitous to almost all modern flat-top steel-stringed acoustic guitars. Alright, let's look at some enlarged images of Thom's guitar from the WoTOnPrime teaser. And we'll start with this one. This is a screenshot of the wireframe that they show in the video, and I wanted to look at this one because it really makes it easy to see the bridge and strings. Number one, we're super zoomed in, and number two, because the strings are yellow, it makes it really easy to see them against the backdrop of the guitar, and the bridge is also highlighted in this pink purple, so they stand out against it too. And actually, if you look on the left of the bridge here, you can see that these strings actually have knots tied on them, which is strange, considering that most classical guitars that I've looked at have the strings tied around the bridge. However, I did see a few examples of this where they tie a knot at the bottom and run the string through. This particular style of bridge is called a tailpiece, given that the strings run right through it. So that's one area where it differs from our pin bridge that we see on the modern steel string guitar, and this even differs from the classical guitars that we've looked at. If you saw in the clips that I used from Brandon's video on the Baroque guitar, you would notice that the strings were tied around the bridge and looped through. So this is just a slightly different configuration. I'm sure there are plenty of real-world examples that utilize this. I just don't see it very often. Another point to call out is that we can actually see the frets, and you can see that the last fret is actually on the body of the guitar, and if you remember from the Baroque guitar, this was quite common. The frets ran up onto the body. So this is pretty standard, I think, given the historical examples, and you see they even mimic the exact configuration where the bass strings begin to lose the frets, but the treble strings continue to have them. And then it continues on. Alright, the next image I have is the guitar with all the texturing applied just on the gray backdrop, so we can really see it up close and personal. It's very clear that at this point this is a 3D render, which I think was a little bit harder to tell in the video in motion, but definitely it's easier to see when we have it up close like this. It appears that the strings that they have on this guitar are metal, at least in this render image, and I can even almost see the balls of the string on the bottom. So on modern steel strings for both acoustic and electric guitars, they have this little metal ball at the end, and that's where you feed the string through either the body of the guitar or the bridge, or you do a wraparound. The ball is always larger than the hole that the string goes through, so it catches there at the end. And that's actually what provides the leverage to hold the string in place when you start tuning up the guitar. So yeah, standard stuff. It's interesting to note, I believe the top 3 frets here that we see on the body into the neck they appear to be wood in this, and then they transition to metal. And finally, the image of the guitar on the workbench. It's not much different from the previous one, but we get a little bit fuller picture. You can start to see the headstock. And this is the frame right before it fades out into the guitar sitting on the bench in the end. So this was about as close as we get to the full thing before it goes out into that image, at which point, with all the lighting effects applied, I thought it was a little bit harder to see. So yeah, here we don't see very much different. We can see they've applied some dirt and grime to the front of the guitar, which wasn't present on the previous image. Again, looks like everything's holding true with the bridge and the strings. They still do appear to be metal textured strings instead of gut. It's probably just what's available to them in terms of textures. We can see the nut, which is Alright, so don't laugh too hard, but up at the top of the fretboard, we can see the nut. Yes, that's what that's called. That's the little white line there that the strings run through, and it has these little grooves filed into it that feed the strings up through to the headstock, and then it helps lead them to the tuning pegs. I wish I had taken another screenshot, but we've watched the video and it's clear that this guitar uses friction tuning pegs. We can't see them on the back, so I don't know what the designs back there look like. But yeah, given just the inspiration they took, almost ripped it off from one of the images I showed you of a 19th century guitar with friction pegs. It's almost the exact same headstock, just straight up copy pasted. So overall, an interesting design with the body shape of the Baroque guitar and then some of the elements of our more modern guitars. Yeah, this is a neat prop. I definitely sat and stared at this for a long time and was just trying to figure out what was going on, so I went and started doing some research. While I am a guitar player, I don't know about all of these historical instruments, so I leaned heavily on the YouTube videos that I found out there, such as found on Brandon Acker's channel. So if you guys enjoyed that, go over there and check him out. Then he was also featured on Rob Scallon's channel with a long form video where they run through a whole bunch of traditional stringed instruments, and you should also go check that one out. It was fantastic. And further, the music in this video was provided by Christian Szczesniak. Christian is a fellow Wheel of Time content creator. Specifically, he is a composer. So I will include links to all of his stuff down below. The music in this video is actually from an upcoming Wheel of Time inspired guitar album that he has, and this is actually the first public hearing of some of these songs that you're getting to experience. So I thank Christian for letting me use his music in the video, and I'm very appreciative of it. And there we have it, everybody. That's where some of the design decisions for Thom's guitar came from. It looks like the team over at Sony and Amazon pulled from real-world examples that we have in our first age history and kind of cobbled them together to form an instrument that might exist one day and maybe has existed long in the past. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you don't mind, again, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, click the little bell icon, like the video. Go ahead, go out there and share it. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Speaking of those things, go ahead and follow me over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, the Bard of the Red Hand. Generally, it's at Red Hand Bard because that's shorter than the Bard of the Red Hand. You can send any emails or inquiries to coffeebreakmail@gmail.com. I appreciate you sticking with me to the end of the video. Bard of the Red Hand signing off.